I'm here in Venice, Italy at Breton, where our research and development center is for a reason. In this area, there's 1,000 years of stone expertise. So the beautiful stone that you see all over the world as countertops or floors or pieces of stone come from this region of Italy. This is not something you can do in Sweden. This is not something you can do in Moscow. And you especially can't do this in the United States. You have 1,000 years of stone culture. You're about to see why when I take you inside here. This can only be done outside of Venice here in Italy. All right, what's going on here? I have been trying to explain this from my office in California for months. What is so special about this deal? We're gonna show you that right now. But what happens is, I present this information from my office and people go, why can't Hyundai do this? Why can't LG do this? Why can't Microsoft do this? There's a reason. I'm just outside of Venice, Italy at the Breton factory. They manufacture equipment that makes engineered quartz. We, of course, in the United States are building an engineered quartz factory. This is all ancient history. But what I'm here to explain is why this can only be done in Italy, here. Right? This is where the birth of the Renaissance in. And I think it's so important to understand the influence on American ideals that came from this area, where humanism, individualism, and innovation became the ideals of Western civilization, ideals we still have today in American culture. The Renaissance period gave us Americans our own ideas of self-determination and pursuit of knowledge. Without the art, the creativity, and the aesthetic sense that is part of culture here that rose from the Renaissance, we cannot provide to the American market the true beauty and aesthetic emotion in the products that they want. If you think about the market that we're in the United States, the specific market we're in has 3 rules. Is it pretty? Does it perform? And is it a good price? When we're here in Venice, you can see those are not the questions. The questions are, is it pretty? And then everything else is secondary. And that's why everything is so rich and it's stone and it's deep. And you don't feel like everything is just painted with a veneer of pretty in considerations for performance, price, supply chain, distribution, gross margin, economics. The only question is it pretty? So one thing is, as I've tried to explain to people about the artisanal legacy of Italian manufacturing, it needs a comparison and contrast. First of all, by the way, I own this piece of equipment. This is about 10,000 pounds, and that will eventually become part of this story. But in order for you to understand Italy, it's hard to do from sitting at your desk in America. So I think first, you have to understand America. And America is a younger country, it's a younger society, and the things that we value in our culture are mass production and mass distribution. So if you think about it, our nation during the 50s and 40s was built on Wonder Bread, was built on Budweiser, was built on pickles, things that we put in a jar, put in a can, put in a bag, and distributed to everybody. And no matter where you went, you could buy Wonder Bread and you knew it would have the consistency. That is what we as Americans value. So once you understand how America works, then you're able to compare and contrast how Italy works, and you can see the value of being here. Let's continue. I think I wanted to show you this piece here because this is completely handmade, one-off. This is not a PlayStation, but it does have joysticks. And I think you can compare and contrast to the United States. After World War II, the United States had this specialization in heavy industry, aerospace, and large-scale manufacturing. That's why we won the war. That's what we were great at as a people, and we continue to run our economy that way. When you have large-scale manufacturing, it lends to having a big corporation that is seeking lots of profit as it goes public. So a public corporation doing manufacturing at a global scale, seeking profits, leads you to 3 themes. Wanting lots of market share, lots of production capability, efficiencies, scalability, and automation. None of that leads to luxurious or luxury items that are bespoke or nuanced or have an aesthetic. So in the American market, we have large companies, large manufacturing, public companies looking for profitability, leading us to automation and to making the most amount of product as efficiently as possible using the tools that we have. Very, very different from the European ethos. As we're about to get into our equipment that we own that will be shipping to us shortly to our factory in Dallas, I want to continue this American versus European or Italian thinking. So in America, for 100 years, we've thought this way.
Anything you can do, I can do better.
I can do anything better than you, if you haven't seen it. All right, but that's the way American thinks, and I can summarize that. We have a pioneering spirit as opposed to an artisanal tradition. The area that I'm in, some of the companies that are here, family owned, have been around for 600 years. Family owned, private, and these are large companies. The company that I'm standing on here, Breton, 65 years in the same family, going through the third generation, privately owned. Why? Because they want to make things at the pace they want to make it, with the artisanal features that it has, and they want to do it their way. They don't want shareholders driving them to profitability to make it as quickly as possible and as animated as possible for the mass market. In Italy, it's dolce vita, right? It is the beautiful life or the beautiful way. That is why you see Ferrari versus GM, two totally different companies. Neither one is bad or better than each other. They're just different. Starbucks versus Illy Coffee, right? Is one better than the other? Sure, maybe. Depends what your love for price versus coffee is. But you can see the ethos is completely different. And now we're getting at the heart why this cannot be done in California, Texas, Nebraska, New York, Florida, Georgia, wherever you want. It has to be done here near the city of Venice in Italy. What is underneath in a culture that allows them to produce one and not the other? Italy has a long tradition of valuing art, design, and craftsmanship rooted in the Renaissance, and they celebrate the finer things from food and fashion to architecture and automobiles. The aesthetic appreciation is deeply ingrained in Italian life. So what does that mean for the equipment? Well, you know, if you went to an engineering firm in the US for Boeing or some aviation, the equipment might not look any different. You've got steel, you've got cables, you've got tubes, you've got welding, and you've got machinery. This machinery is specialized not to make nuts and bolts or sheets for an airplane or propellers for a Boeing aircraft. It's to make something beautiful that goes in your home. Where I'm standing now, 65 years in the same business, artisanal craftsmanship, even in engineering, in a family-owned business. I only know that where I am here and the equipment we're buying is revolutionizing an entire industry in the United States, because it's the blend of the finance market in which we know how to do, which we're great at in the US, and the artisanal engineering that is available only here in Italy. All right, take a look at this. This is an iPhone designed in California, made in China. I'm gonna land the plane right now. The difference is there's, 100 million of these made a year. This, I believe, is the only one of one. We hope to order 4 this year. In order for number 2 to be made, this one has to be shipped out to our factory. One of one. So the reason this cannot be made in China or Sweden or Russia or Kansas City is because we're in an ecosystem here. For 1,000 years, this region has controlled the stone industry. There's 100 companies that feed into this. Design companies, engineering companies, stone companies, finishing companies, kitchen companies. This cannot be done outside of this ecosystem. We are so fortunate to be able to do this with our Italian partner, Breton, of course, to be able to make this machine with us. And this machine, for the first time in human history, can make an engineered version of stone that looks exactly like the stone you get out of the ground, that looks like the finest marble, granite, quartz that's ever been brought out of the ground. And only from this region in Italy can we do this. In America, are we bad, or is it a negative that we can't do this? No, what we're great at is finance. We have the most cashed up consumer, $13 trillion in the world. The consumer that we have is able to buy the product this makes, but only in Italy can you design this equipment and the knowledge to make stone. I wanted to grab this forklift here and stand next to this cutting machine to highlight something very important. I have no idea how any of this works because I'm in finance. That's what we do in California, and it's what we're great at. Here in Italy, one of our team visited the Monte Grappa pen factory. 9 years of training to be hired at a pen factory. Think about it, the Bic factory, wherever it is in Cleveland, Ohio, wherever it is in the US, I'm sure you could get hired this afternoon, right? With no training whatsoever. This requires an artisanal culture. It requires the aesthetic know-how to do stone. Cannot be done anywhere else. So in California, we're great at finance. That's what we're bringing to this project. Here in Venice, stone is what they know. This partnership is allowing us to build a great American company in Dallas, Texas.